Hi guys, welcome to New Dad Diary with me, Alex, and my son Mayan, who is being a little bit grumpy today, so we are now just chilling out on the couch. And today we are going to be talking on the topic of advice. As a new parent, you will probably be asking for help quite a lot, at least you should be, and there's no problem doing that. You don't have the answers, so it's kind of a good idea to ask questions. The problem is you're probably also going to get a lot of unsolicited advice as well, so we'll be dealing with that. So let's first look at who is going to be giving you advice. Throughout your pregnancy, from the beginning to even after you've had your baby, you are going to be meted and greeted and talked to by dozens of different nurses, healthcare workers, doctors, midwives, and they're all going to be giving you advice at every stage. The biggest problem is that these guys we've been joined by my dog buddy. Hello. Say hello. Who's this up there? Who's that? Oh. The biggest issue is that in the beginning, the people that you are going to speak to, they are the experts, they are the professionals, they are the ones that you rely on for giving you sound, good advice. The thing you will quickly find out is that they don't all necessarily know what they're talking about, and a lot of the information that they're going to give you is going to contradict itself. Sorry, I just put my hand on my dog's cock. Wasn't watching. Oh no, what's going on? A big instance, the breastfeeding. And my wife, she initially was breastfeeding, and we were having problems with him and how much he was taking and stuff like that. And one of the midwives turned around and said, you know, you want to be trying to feed him on the breast kind of, you know, every 3 hours or something like that. And otherwise he'll become a snack feeder. And that means, you know, you'll be forever feeding him and it'll be really difficult and it'll be a bad habit that's hard to break. The next midwife we were speaking to was saying, no, they're supposed to snack feed, it's called cluster feeding, that's what they're supposed to do. They are supposed to kind of feed when they want it. And you'll find that there's kind of like big generation gaps with what's been taught and how they've been taught. And in some cases, if it's a midwife that's got kids, kind of how she's brought up her own as well. So kind of straight away you're like, well, whose advice do I take? My advice would be just take the advice of the person at hand. It saves yourself so much heartache, and you can really kind of go back and forth on what's the right thing to do. And ultimately, it doesn't matter anyway. As long as the baby's getting some food, then I wouldn't really worry too much about it. The second type of people that are going to give you advice can be people that don't even have kids.
Seriously?
As I leaned up to do that close up, my dog just decided to run in and steal my place. Get off him. Anyway, that's not to say that the advice that they will give is bad or wrong, but as often as not, when you're going through a hard time, the last person you want to take advice from is somebody that has not been in the situation. And don't get me wrong, their advice can come from the right place, and it might be good advice, but it's pretty hard to take. Now, the biggest source of advice, both requested and very much unsolicited, is going to be from other parents. Now, in the case of advice that you requested, my personal recommendation would be going to people that have recently had babies, because their advice is going to be the most current, especially first-time parents, because if, like you, they are a first-time parent, they're going to know exactly what you're going through within reason. The fact of the matter is that their baby is going to be completely different to yours, and what they are having to deal with and what you are having to deal with might not necessarily be on the same level. Shut up! But they're the people that are going to be able to relate to you the most, because they are kind of going through what you're going through at the same time, and they are less likely to be judgmental or trying to win some kind of game. Because with a lot of parents, it is a competition. It is a case of you are failing worse than I am. And that makes me feel good about myself, which is a wrong way to be, you know. We should all be at least trying to help each other out. So realistically, you have to work out where this advice is coming from when it's coming from another parent. Is it coming from a place of love? Is it somebody that is actually trying to help you out? Or is it somebody that's trying to judge you and basically point out what you're doing wrong? Only you know that, and only you know the people that you are talking to. So yeah, the new parents, they're the best ones to ask for. Unfortunately, and you will find, as we did, when you are going through your pregnancy, people that have got kids, it's always a case of, oh, you don't know what it's going to be like. Oh, you've no idea. You know, until you've had a child, you just don't know. Which there's some truth to it, but you don't need to hear it all the time. You don't need to feel like what you do know has absolutely no worth. If you've got no child and somebody's got one child, oh, you don't know what it's like until you've got a child. If they've got 2 children and you've got 1 child, oh, you don't know what it's like until you've got 2 children. If you've got 2 children and they've got 1 child, oh, well, you've got 2 children, you don't really know what it's like to only have 1 child. You. Just the act of having a child does not necessarily make you a good parent or more knowledgeable in the subject. Just by having more than 1 child does not multiply your experience or knowledge in the matter. Every child is different, every parent is different, every situation and scenario and whole life is completely different. At the end of the day, some people just love giving advice. They love telling you how they are doing it so right. The parents that you find do love giving you advice all the time. Just find out how many problems they have with their kids, because they probably don't speak about them that often. They love kind of setting themselves up as being the shining star, but it ain't always the case, okay? Everybody has some problem in one form or another with their child. You will be no different. But that's just parents. Speaking of which, we come on to the more difficult topic of your own parents. Now, your own parents can be a sensitive subject because ultimately they brought you up and presumably, you know, you're okay, you've turned out alright. At least if nothing else, you have a good taste in YouTube videos. The thing they're always going to turn around and say is, it worked for us. When we did it, it worked for us. It's worked for so long, it's worked for this many years, it's worked for decades. That's pretty much what every parent will go to when they're trying to advise you on how to bring up your child. They are invested as grandparents, so I don't doubt that unless you have manipulative parents, which some of you might, any advice that you are getting off your parents, it is for yours and your child's best interest. The problem is that parents don't always know best, because the fact of the matter is that things change. You will find that the advice that they are giving you completely contradicts the things that you have been told. Everything from how a child should be picked up, how they should be fed, how they should sleep in their baskets at night. Things are done differently now for a reason, okay? As much as it used to work for them, if it's not the way it's done anymore, then there's probably a good reason for that. It's not to say that it's not good advice, but if it's different to the advice that you've been given, then your parents should at least understand why you're not taking it. It's not personal, but what works for decades doesn't necessarily mean it is the right way to go. So when you have these different forms of advice coming at you from all different directions that are usually unsolicited, here's how you deal with it. There are in reality 3 ways to go at this. First of all, you try out the advice, and if it doesn't sound like the worst advice, it's not necessarily a bad thing to do. If you are having trouble and the ways that you've tried haven't necessarily worked, then why wouldn't you try it? Secondly, if it's advice that you don't actually want to take, you can always use a white lie. Oh right, yeah, good idea. Yeah, we hadn't thought of that. We'll definitely try it. Or alternatively, oh yeah, no, we actually tried that and for some reason, no, it didn't work. But the third and best way to avoid getting unsolicited advice is don't tell the people that often give it that there's any problems. Even though it may seem like it's unsolicited, a lot of people give advice because they feel like you don't want to ask for it, even though you do really want to take it. So the only way to avoid getting the advice given to you is not give off that vibe. But remember, as we said, any advice given 9 times out of 10 is coming from a place of love where somebody actually wants to help you. So again, thanks for watching, and if you like the video, then please give us a baby thumbs up. Doesn't work, it's got like an iron vice. And if you like the channel and don't want to miss any more of our videos, then you can always subscribe. And there'll be a button at the end to remind you to subscribe again. You can also add us on Twitter and Facebook at New Dad Diary and to check out what we're up to. So Again, thanks for watching and sweet dreams. I don't even know why I say that because we don't even get any sleep. Nurses, doctors. Should I pat your belly? I know. No, it's not to say. Oh my god. This video seemed like a better idea than it's turning out to be.